and welcome to this episode of Untold Stories. What makes this episode special is that it is on the Department for Special Operations. What does this department with an esoteric name actually do? To tell us more about this, we have with us Mr. Pranesh Rao, who heads this department, and 7 of his senior colleagues. Pranesh himself has a very interesting background. A chemical engineer by training, he then went to the Indian Institute of Management, Lucknow. He has spent 15 years with the bank and has an overall work experience of about 25 years. Welcome to the show, Pranesh. And I cannot but help ask this question. Why did you not pursue a career in chemical engineering? Was the chemistry not right?
Thank you, Ravindran, for the nice introduction. I think the chemistry worked out perfectly well, which is why I am where I am today. I think not just chemistry, even destiny is what brought me all the way here. I believed I was a fairly good chemical engineer, and then I went on to do my management, and post-management I got absorbed into consumer finance business, and that's what has been my passion ever since. And I moved into banking, and from banking, obviously the best place to be in the banking industry today is HDFC Bank, and I'm proud that I've been here for now 15 years.
Pranesh, let me also give you a little insight. I too am a graduate in chemistry, but my chemistry wasn't right. Now coming to something more serious, you had something which has a fancy or a rather esoteric sounding name, Department for Special Operations. What does this department actually do?
Yes, it is DFSO, Department for Special Operations. We take care of the resolution of stressed assets and management of large NPAs accounts of the bank across product segments, be it corporate banking, emerging corporates, infrastructure finance, business banking, emerging enterprises, capital and commodity markets, inventory funding, apart from derivative exposures of treasury. So as you can see, we have a really large client base across the bank. And coming to the role of DFSO, I would like to believe that we have a very strong role to play in nation building. See, for a country, we talk of being a $5 trillion economy. For that kind of growth to happen, bank credit becomes absolutely critical. And bank credit to businesses is that much more important in getting the economy kicked off. For HDFC Bank, it's imperative that the internal framework for resolution and management of stressed assets and NPAs is rock solid. That rock solid foundation is what DFSO brings in.
Right. Pranesh, you are a man with a smile, but I also believe that the smile disappears when you deal with willful defaulters, right? So we have the willful defaulters, and then there are those people who actually are facing business challenges. How do you actually distinguish between them, and is there any way in which you treat them differently?
Yeah, I'm glad that you asked that question, Ravi, because I believe we have a well-differentiated strategy looking at the type of customer. I would like to classify, well, you mentioned practically 2 categories, the willful defaulters and the guys who are going to trouble. I would actually like to distinguish it within 3 categories. One is clearly the genuine customers who have economically viable businesses which have been temporarily affected due to, say, COVID right now, or due to some order gone bad, or some whatever it could be. But primarily they are economically viable businesses. Then are the second set of customers whose businesses have practically shut down, they're not functional, but they have assets and they are trying to protect their assets, and to that extent they are trying to delay or thwart the bank's recovery efforts. And then in the third category come our good friends that you mentioned, the willful defaulters, the fraudsters, the non-cooperative borrowers, who want to try and game the system. So for each of these customers, we have a completely different, well tailor-made strategies, from soft to hardcore legal actions as per available rules and regulations.
Right, Pranesh, I know being HDFC Bank will play strictly by the rule book. Now that also means that you need to have a solid structure in place. I just want to know that the number of people who work with you, Pranesh.
The total team size is 53, Ravi. and we have teams of recovery managers, legal managers, etc. The focus is more in terms of delivering together as a team.
I get that. That is the way the bank always functions, the power of one bank, as our senior leadership team keeps saying. Over to you, Mohit.
Hello, sir. So you mentioned about the structure of the team. Would you like to tell us that, what are the qualities or the qualifications that you look for when you are having a new member in your team?
In fact, to answer this, I would welcome my senior colleague, Anantaraman, who is the regional head West. He is the most experienced team member. I would rather have him explain this.
We have two different positions in our department. One is legal manager and the other one is recovery manager. Legal manager has to be a law graduate and should be a practicing lawyer or working in a bank or an NBFC and should have a work experience, litigation experience, and also he should have a capability of drafting recall notices, various notices under SURFACE Act, and also you should have what is a claim to be filed in a DRT, that is Debt Recovery Tribunal. Yeah. So those are the qualities of a legal manager, what we expect. And with regard to recovery manager should be working in the same position in some other organization or in a bank or an NBFC, and you should have lending knowledge, what type of facilities are granted to various borrowers, why these facilities are given, why and what are the reasons given, and what are the documentation entered into, executed with the borrower by the bank. And the recovery manager should think that his own money he has given to somebody and he is recovering that money, so that the entire focus will be on the recovery part.
Hi Pranesh, you head a very sensitive department. So while dealing with people, do you feel threatened? Is there a fear factor? Or would you like to share, or your team members share some experience that they have gone through?
Firstly, the law of the land provides us with very powerful tools to bring in the recoveries, whether the accounts are with collateral security or without collateral security. In both the situations, the legal machinery provides effective options for the bank to get after the borrowers and recover the monies. All the same, being HDFC Bank, we are extremely compliant with the law of the land, with all regulatory guidelines, irrespective of whether it's a low value account or a high value account. Yes, there would be some, I would call them niggles, in the course of our business, and in fact I would invite Gomati Nathan, our regional head for South 1, to share maybe one or two examples of what we go through.
There is one untold story I will talk about. When I went for taking possession of a mortgaged property, it is a huge land parcel. In that there was a small house, and the property is such that is the entrances from one street and the exit from the other street. So when we were about to come out of the property, that is behind us, I saw some goons and gundas with sickles and sticks, everything. They were running behind me. That day I ran like Usain Bolt, okay, and immediately I barged into the car, okay, and the driver took us and he rode the car like a Formula 1 car driver, and luckily that day we escaped. And the climax is that is we came to the hotel, and immediately I vacated the hotel, and then I informed my supervisors. Then end of the day, it is one or two instances like this, and finally after 6 months we were able to successfully auction the property and recover our entire dues.
Pranesh, another question that comes to my mind, that since the entire world is passing through this pandemic and yours work is more on ground, more in the courts where you have to be physically present, as Gomti said, you have to go to the site for possession of properties and other things. Have you faced any difficulty during this COVID time? You have learned some lessons that you'd like to continue to be with your department once we reopen and the world becomes a normal place?
I'll take that in two parts. Related to the legal action, the legal strategy that we adopt, and the impact of that, and the impact of the lockdown and the restrictions that have come in. That's part A, where for which I will invite Ajay Kumar, our legal head, who's handled many complex and complicated cases for the bank. Second point that I would want to touch upon is related to our team, the DFSO team, our working, how it has impacted our own work environment, and how we managed to cope up with that. For that, I will request Damodar Shenoy, who is the head of processes for DFSO, to touch upon that.
Thank you, Pranesh. Thank you, Sanjay. So basically, we have to go with all the actions in compliance with our RBI regulations and within the legal framework. So if you ask me a question as to what is the present legal system which we are following, originally we had been depending on all these civil courts and civil proceedings. Basically, it's a legal measure to enforce this recovery. Thereafter, what they have done is they have brought a new act called DRT Act. This DRT Act is exclusive for the banks. If your amount due and payable is more than some cut-off limit, say earlier it was 10 lakhs, now it is 20 lakhs. So if your dues are more than 20 lakhs, your option is to go there, go to the DRT, file an application, and enforce that order against the borrower and recover your dues. The other option, what would be, is the surface action. Surface action, people may say that it's a draconian in its nature and all that. But in fact, surface action empowers the bank through its authorized officer, go to the issue a recall notice, issue a demand notice, wait for 60 days, take physical possession of the property without intervention of the court, and put up the property by way of a public auction, then sell it and recover our dues. Now coming to the other piece is regarding this NCLT. See, you might have heard Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code. This has been passed in the year 2016. Since then, the purpose of the code is not basically for recovery. The purpose of the code is to restructure basically the account, ensure that a borrower company is gone in all to make it as a going concern, and thereafter as a last recourse to go for liquidation. These are all basically I would say that these are all the three pillars. One is the DRT route, one is the NCLT route, and the appellate jurisdictions available in all these proceedings. These are all basically the broader proceedings wherein a bank would like to go and recover its dues. As far as the next point as to the COVID pandemic and all that, you are aware, what we have done is to cope up with the situation. We had been briefing senior counsel through VC video conferencing. Not apart from that, we have been directly attending court proceedings through VC. The biggest advantage for us is the stakeholders involved within the bank, either from the business side or from the credit side. They have got an opportunity to upfront watch the court proceedings and understand the pulse of the proceeding. That is the biggest advantage. We from the bank side, what we have done is we have created online payment of court fees. We have also coping up ourselves with the filing through e-filing through recovery proceedings and other applications through the courts and the tribunals. So what I feel is that going forward, there will be a robust system available, made available by the government through all the courts and the tribunals. So wherein we will be able to basically go on with the litigations and the filings. That is what the main thing.
This lockdown has given a positive impact on professional and personal lives of our entire team members. Even in this lockdown period, our recovery managers, they are still pursuing with the borrowers. Bank has moved to digital. In fact, during this lockdown period, we had a few new recruits who had got the experience of e-joining. Personally, because of this work from home model, the traveling time has considerably reduced. Due to this, there is a lot of improvement in productivity, efficiency of the staff members. At the same time, we have worked on lot of housekeeping issues also. So even in this situation, our team is raring to deliver even under this critical situation. Perseverance is a key mantra of recovery business.
Thanks, Damodar. Sanjay, sometime back we were talking of the threats, and Gomti shared a very nice experience. In fact, I would like to invite Shalini Mathur, Regional Head North, and Srikala, Regional Head South too. In fact, these ladies are the Jhansi Ranis and the Kittur Channamas of the team, one in the north and one in the south. And I would like them to share their experiences of working in this department and particularly in the field that we are working in.
As far as threats are concerned, very honestly, I have not received any threats as such so far. And whatever misconceptions any borrower or defaulter may be having with regard to intimidating me or any of my team members, I put those misconceptions at rest right in my first meeting with the borrowers. We are known to be a professional team and we are known to work within the legal ambit, and we also ensure that we do not falter on the legal front under any circumstances.
For the last 18 years, I have been working in the legal and recovery department, and I find it very challenging and matching my professional and personal skills. And I love working in this department. It's my passion, and we need a good team support also. And we face customers who are in very bad situation. Their loans go bad, and we take steps to help them to come out of the situations, and they also feel relieved. But in some cases, we see that they play games with the bank, and in such cases, we take all legal measures to defend the case very strongly and on behalf of the bank.
What is the one leadership lesson that you have learned and would like to share with the audience?
If it is one single lesson, it will be the motto of Boy Scouts: be prepared. So that's one lesson which COVID has taught all of us. And I would say that since as a bank we had a very robust BCP plan in place, so we could tide over the entire crisis very comfortably.
Pranesh, there have been important lessons, I'm sure, that have been learned during the lockdown. What is the way ahead now?
There have been very interesting developments over the last couple of years. In fact, the entire landscape of stressed assets has actually transformed. And I'd like to invite my colleague Shivayogi Kubsad, who heads the NCLT unit for the department, and he'll walk us through this new developments.
Thanks, Pranesh. Thanks, Kandran. It's always a pleasure. Let me tell a short story. I was interacting with a seasoned banker, maybe due for retirement in a year or two. He says, Shiva, the defaulting promoter losing a company in India, he thought that he would never ever imagine he will be able to see in his professional career. But that's a reality today. If you default, be prepared to lose your company. Courtesy, Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code, it's a landmark legislation where it has contributed on the overall scheme of ease of doing business in India. If there is a business, obviously there is a business failures, you need a framework for resolution. From the banker's perspective, the debtor in control position to the creditor in control, it's a phenomenal change in the positioning as a lender versus borrower relationship. What this code does, it brings in all the stakeholders on one framework under law, be it a supplier, be it a vendor, be it a lender, be it a banker, or employees, workmen, for that purpose under the legal framework. So it gives a holistic approach, and insolvency and bankruptcy, it's a small baby of just 3 years, but in my view, it's a future. Obviously, we need more chemical engineers to run this factory, so Pranesh does help.
Pranesh, so from the line of fire to the rapid fire. So let us start the rapid fire round now. my first question to you is, how did you first hear about the lockdown?
From the PM's address to the nation.
And what was your reaction when you heard that?
I honestly felt that 21 days is too long. We Indians, I'm not sure that we would be so disciplined, and I was not sure that it will work.
Have you had any wow moment during this lockdown, during this entire period?
Yeah, quite a few. In fact, it was amazing to see the surge of positive energy in the time of such crisis. There were thousands of people going out of their way to help the needy and the lesser fortunate. And even at a personal level, it was fantastic to spend time with the family. In fact, my wedding anniversary went through during the lockdown, and I was able to spend time with the family, with kids taking over the entire kitchen. We were subjected to a whole lot of gastronomic delights.
Wow. I mean, I must say that was really wow. But then there must have also been times when you said, oh, oops. So what was your oops moment?
There was a time when I was supposed to go for a doctor's appointment, and I got into the car, and then I got a call from my wife reminding me that I had stepped out without wearing my mask. So I had to go back, get back to the house and get my mask, and then get started all over again.
Was there any time you actually felt like tearing your hair out?
Not really, but yeah, you were bugged when you see well-educated guys blatantly violating social distancing norms under false sense of bravado, believing that this is not going to affect them. And that's when you feel what more and how else can one bring some sense into them.
And the one learning that you have had during the lockdown?
I think it's important to communicate. Communication is very, very critical. There has to be clarity of thought and expression within the team. One should be approachable, one should be willing to listen, and one should learn to trust the team members. You can monitor them, but you can't get into a policing mode. That, I think, is a critical part. And finally, it's always a team that delivers. So the leader needs to be humble. At the same time, it's the leader who sets the pace for the team. So there is that responsibility of setting the pace and direction also.
You talked of gastronomic delights earlier in the show. So who is the better cook? You, your wife?
Obviously my wife. I am not a cook at all.
Let me ask you a dangerous question. Do you feel that the kids are better than your wife when it comes to cooking?
That is a dangerous question, but right now I'll go with the politically correct answer. My wife is definitely a far better cook.
Any haircut misadventure that you may want to talk about?
Thankfully, no.
So Pranesh and Department of Special Operations, it's been truly wonderful having you on the show. We have got those special insights about the challenges that you face, the Ranis of Jhansis and Rani Chennamas that you have in your team, the way you navigate the tough situations that you face. Thank you very much for being a part of this show, and we hope to have you soon again.